Welcome to Fine Tuning with Drew Taylor, your one-stop shop when it comes to animation news and commentary. I'm Drew's co-host, entertainment writer Jim Hill, and he and I are recording this on Thursday evening, September 30th, 2021. Going to be a fun show this week, folks. You're definitely going to want to hang around for the second half, which is when Drew and I interview Kirk Thatcher, the writer-director of Muppet Haunted Mansion. Kirk is a really great guy and shares a number of stories about his career at Henson, like how many years it took to actually get a Muppet Haunted House movie made. But first comes the news, and today's Fine Tuning is brought to you by Storybook Destination, trusted travel partner of the Jim Hill Media Podcast Network. For a worry-free travel experience, please book online with StorybookDestinations.com. And Drew, all right, literally minutes ago?
Yeah.
Some big news broke, right?
Yes. Disney and Scarlett Johansson have reached an agreement. Obviously, this has been in the better part of the summer, has been spent with them bickering back and forth about Black Widow and what she was owed. And she said, "I am happy to have resolved our differences with Disney. I'm incredibly proud of the work we've done together over the years and have greatly enjoyed our creative relationship with the team. I look forward to continuing our collaboration in years to come." And obviously, there was actually a statement from Alan Bergman who said, "We appreciate her contributions to the Marvel Cinematic Universe and look forward to working together on a number of upcoming projects, including Disney's Tower of Terror." So Tower of Terror is still in the mix, and it was actually name-checked by Alan Bergman. So,
wow.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh. Okay, and what makes me crazy here is you shared a piece of information with me weeks ago that we still can't reveal.
Correct.
But if people knew who Scarlett is supposed to be working on with the Tower on the Tower of Terror movie,
it is a very exciting personality, I think, that is working alongside Scarlett on this project, and obviously a script by Josh Cooley, our friend who directed Toy Story 4. So
True. Okay.
Everything I've heard is very promising. So the fact that Bergman called out Tower of Terror,
okay,
pretty good, Jim. Pretty good.
That's great news. By the way, last week you talked about you're now officially part of the Critics Association, the
Critics Choice Association. Yeah.
So
yeah.
So I have to ask: have the screeners started showing up yet, or anything interesting in the mail?
Nothing yet, but hopefully around Thanksgiving is when they really start to pile up. So, I can make a dent in all these movies coming out this year.
Very cool. Okay, well, I bring up things in the mail because just today I got a copy of Playboy magazine, specifically the issue from October of 1982. I bought this issue off of eBay because of Lawrence Linderman's interview with Robin Williams. And it's interesting. Robin actually did 2 interviews of size with Playboy over his career. This was the first. And what's kind of interesting about this is where Robin talks at length about that Disney Paramount co-production, Popeye. And I've been doing a deep dive on Popeye lately. There's so many great stories associated with the December 1980 release. And in fact, I just picked up, I guess they finally put out a Blu-ray of this movie in December of last year.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I got Paramount sent it to me. It's really nice.
Yeah, now it's got the Popeye premiere on it, and what is it? A Return to Sweet Haven feature. So
oh really?
Yeah,
I haven't looked at the special features, but we all know that those sets are still there.
They are. It's built in Malta. But what I loved about this interview, and again, you can remember this is Robin talking. The movie came out in December of 1980. This is him talking roughly, a year and a half later. What he says is that how he got the job. I give her a shit about Popeye when Robert Evans asked me to be in the picture. Dustin Hoffman was originally supposed to play Popeye, and he was also supposed to do Garp. And, Robin jokes, if there are any other films you don't want to do, Dustin, just let me know and I'll be there. But anyway, Mork and Mindy was really hot at this time, so that's why Evans reached out to Williams and wanted to see what happens. I don't know if you saw early this week, there was, in fact, I think it keyed off of Google using Christopher Reeves as one of their art pieces of the day. But there was an interview out there where he talked about how doing Superman, having come out of studying acting at Juilliard with the people of his generation, and people initially made fun of Reeves because he made this choice, and he says, well, it was kind of a calculated risk.
Right.
And what's interesting is Williams kind of felt the same way about Popeye. He said, I felt really confined by the work I was doing on television at the time. I thought, with Popeye, I might then get a chance to explode, to show the world what I could really do with the right role. But then Paramount pulled the plug on the film and said, you people have to come home. You're tired and you're over budget, and if you stay any longer, you're on your own. So, all right, Paramount pulls the plug just as Altman and company are getting ready to shoot Popeye's slapstick-filled finale, which is supposed to be this affectionate tribute to the Fleischer films, filled with all sorts of slapstick, but with no money coming in from Paramount. Williams goes on to say, there's no boffo ending. On the last day of shooting, we are struggling desperately to come up with an ending. And we all knew it would take great special effects to pull off, but the special effects guys had already left Malta. And so here's Shelley Duvall, who's supposed to be attacked by an octopus, but the one that had been built for the movie can't do anything. So Williams goes on to say, now what killed me is Disney had put up half the money for this movie. And Paramount hadn't told them yet that they'd pulled the plug on the money for the movie. And I'm sure that if they knew we were still over there in Malta trying to make the end of Popeye work, and that we were stuck with an octopus that couldn't even manipulate its arms, I'm sure that Disney would have put a few Imagineers on a plane, and then we would have had an octopus that would wink and blink and blow bubbles and smoke underwater. So I remember reading this interview. I got Playboy just for the articles, Drew, just for the articles.
Oh, sure.
But back in 82, Williams, to prepare for the role of Popeye, supposedly watched 50 hours of the original Fleischer Popeye shorts to get the voice down and how the character moved. And I bring that up because, okay, folks, I know that this episode of Fine Tuning won't be available for downloading till Tuesday, October 5th. So what I'm about to say might frustrate a few of you, but Turner Classic Movies, known to TCM to cable TV fans, will be hosting a celebration of the 100th anniversary of Fleischer Studios on Saturday, October 2nd. This fabled animation studio, which was originally known as Out of the Inkwell Studios, was founded in New York back in 1921. Now, I bring this up because according to the TCM website, that cable channel has, and I'm quoting directly now, hundreds of movies on demand. Our extensive library is updated each month with new titles, including introductions by special guests and our TCM hosts, including Ben Bankowitz. Movies are presented uncut and commercial-free. So what I'm hoping here, folks, is that this 100th anniversary of Fleischer Studio programming that I'm about to describe will be available as an on-demand offering. Just sharing these titles, so jot them down and try to chase these down. Now, supposedly on Saturday, October 2nd, 8 p.m., 7 p.m. Central, TCM presented Cartoon Carnival. Now, this is a TCM premiere produced in 2021, 90-minute documentary that charts the birth of the American cartoon through the silent era until the arrival of Disney. It's told through interviews with animation historians and supported by archive clips. I realize you just went cable-less recently,
yes.
Right?
Yeah, so we can FaceTime and you can just point the phone towards your TV. And that way we can watch it together.
Okay, cool. Well, I am planning on DVRing these things, but the next following Cartoon Carnival, beginning at 9:45, they're going to present a series of shorts that focuses on Fleischer Studio during Hollywood's silent era. Then at 10:45, there'll be a series of shorts that what Fleischer produced during the sound era. It sounds like a killer presentation. And by the way, Drew and I should thank friend of the show, Bernie. He gave us the heads up about this. And I really wish we talked about it early. But again, I'm hoping that some of this stuff is available on demand. And speaking of stuff that's already underway, Addams Family 2 comes out on tomorrow, right? Friday, October 1st.
Correct. Though
it's already screening around the country with those Thursday night preview screenings, I think they call them. They help boost the opening weekend box office.
Right.
But look, you and I had talked previously about, up until just a few weeks ago, really, Addams Family 2 was supposed to face some competition at the multiplex that I was supposed to go head-to-head with Hotel Transylvania Transformania. But then on August 18th, there was that story in Forbes about how Amazon had supposedly agreed to pay $100 million to get the rights to this fourth and final film in the franchise. And have you heard anything since then?
I have not heard a thing, which is really weird because you would think with every streamer jockeying for Halloween programming supremacy that they would at least date it, but I haven't heard anything about it. I mean, it's had more dates than you or I have, Jim, that's for sure.
Yeah, you're right. No less than 4 release dates, but in each situation, I mean, from the fact that, for example, when they announced in February 2019, they announced that it was initially supposed to be released to theaters in December 22nd, 2021, and let's face it, that's Christmas. That's a huge date for family films. So that suggests Sony had confidence in this thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think when it was Christmas, it also had a Christmas theme.
Really?
Which we know since has been abandoned. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay. But then, I mean, when you watch, April of last year, we saw them set it up with an early August release date this year. Then it got pushed back to the middle of July of this year, which, again, I realize it's the year of the pandemic. Summer blockbuster isn't going to do what a traditional summer blockbuster does during a pandemic. But the fact that they pushed it back into summer blockbuster country, again, suggests that there was some confidence in this thing. So why do you suppose, I mean, if they've made this deal, why the radio silence?
I don't know. It's really interesting and very bizarre.
I agree.
Yeah.
You were just talking about how this time of year everybody is doing Halloween-themed programming, and one of the first who got into this business was Freeform. Well, back when it was ABC Family. And their 31 Nights of Halloween programming event is well underway at this point. In fact, today, the day the show goes live, October 5th. They start things off. They're showing the original Shrek from April of 2001 at 3. That's then followed by the first Shrek sequel, Shrek 2, from May of 2004. Then what's interesting, they step around Shrek 3. So I don't know if that means that Freeform doesn't have the rights, or maybe they don't think it's all that good a movie, which I would not necessarily have a problem with. But they go straight to Shrek Forever After from May of 2010. Then, of course, it's Hocus Pocus. In fact, that Hocus Pocus on today, this will be the third time that Hocus Pocus will have been shown as part of the 31 Nights of Halloween programming event on Freeform. And when it's done, by the end of the month, they will have shown it 13 times. And then the night's programming actually wraps with a Treehouse of Horror-a-thon, 4 Halloween-themed episodes of The Simpsons airing back-to-back, starting at midnight.
You're forgetting the scariest part of any night on Freeform, which is the 500 Club at 11.
We have talked about that, haven't we? The black card.
Yes, I cannot believe that it is still ongoing. With all of the legal maneuvering that Disney is capable of, it's just such a bummer, too, to have it just be right in the middle of the night, like, just laughing at you.
Well, the weird part of it is as I understand it, the 700 Club with Pat Robertson, it airs, I want to say, at 11 in the morning and 11 at night. And it's grandfathered into the deal. There's no workaround. And I still don't understand what Pat gets out of it, because I can't imagine the Venn diagram of Freeform watchers and 700 Club supporters, that has to be a tiny group. But he's not willing to give up whatever spotlight he has. And more to the point, this month in particular, I mean, this is Pat going head-to-head with, we've got animated features from Pixar, we got Monsters, Inc., Monsters University, as well as the seasonal special, Toy Story of Terror. We've got Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas, Corpse Bride, also Frankenweenie. And we were just talking about Sony Pictures Animation. Interesting, Freeform has the rights to Hotel Transylvania 2 and Hotel Transylvania Summer Vacation, but not the original Hotel Transylvania. Any idea who has the streaming rights for that these days? Or...
Well, we're talking about linear broadcast, which is completely different from streaming rights.
This is true.
Eventually, they will all end up on Disney Plus. because they signed that deal with Sony earlier this year, where a lot of their legacy content will live on Disney Plus after that first window.
Wow.
So maybe they have the show on there too, and it'll be a nice little dive into Hotel Transylvania.
We're willing to take bets that we thought Hotel Transylvania Transformania would end up at Disney. So that's what's fascinating about this Amazon thing, which again we still don't know about. Speaking of Disney Plus, when Drew and I get back, we'll share that interview with Kirk Thatcher. But first, a few ads.
The family that vacations together stays together. At least, that was the plan. Except now, the dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for the stay.
Every story you love, every invention that moves you, every idea you wished was yours, all began as nothing. Just a blank page with a blinking cursor, asking a simple question. What do you see? Great ideas start on Mac. Find out more on apple.com/Mac.
All right, listen up, nacho chips. Quiet down, crispy potatoes. This is the moment Velveeta's been preparing you for, and you're not about to crack under pressure. Today's the day to go all in on the drip. Velveeta's Heat and Eat Queso is the MVP of any game day spread, so stick by them, and you'll be golden. Now get out there and make delicious history. No tailgate party is complete without Velveeta.
And we're back. And speaking of ads, a number of trailers dropped this week. First of all, what did you think of? I mean, obviously, last week we did the interview with the folks from Encanto. What did you think of the trailer?
I liked it. I mean, we saw a little rough cut of this during the press day, which I thought was really great. And I cannot wait to see the other hour of Encanto after seeing those 30 minutes. I'm pretty excited about this one. How about you?
I have to admit, I am looking forward to it, but at the same time, for the different stuff. I mean, again, I'm just fascinated by the notion of our first Disney heroine who doesn't have ice making ability or fairy godmother to back her up. And more to the point, the rather stern grandmother genuinely intrigues me. And what's kind of weird, I've been looking at Twitter that evidently there are a number of fans of Fine Tooning from Portugal who have been tweeting out, "There's a stern grandmother." Evidently, Portugal may have cornered the market on stern grandmothers, so they're really looking forward to this film. On the other hand, I gotta say, I really loved the trailer that got put out there for Skydance Animations. So this is their first short for Apple TV, right? Blush?
Yeah, this will be the first. It's the first anything really, I think, from Skydance Animation and Apple TV, and it'll be on the platform tomorrow. So by the time that this episode airs, we can all have enjoyed Blush, and we will discuss it on the next episode. I'm sure you and I.
Okay. Do we?
But yeah, it looks great.
Do we know if Mr. Lasseter is on the credits for this? Or?
I believe he is, and I also believe I saw that Nathan Greno also is credited because he provided some storyboards for this one. It is written and directed by Joe Mateo, who, Jim, you love because he did Prep and Landing.
That's right.
So this is a great vet from animation, from Disney Animation. Okay. So executive produced by John Lasseter, and it is the first Apple TV Skydance Animation project before features Luck and Spellbound and the upcoming animated series The Search for Wondla. So there you go, Jim. That's all I know.
Okay. So gotta go check that out. And finally, we have our trailer for Maya and the Three. As a fan of the Book of Life, I am just so thrilled to be basically going back to this world, to going back to this level and this style of animation. What did you think of the trailer?
Well, I actually didn't watch the trailer because I have watched a few episodes and I don't want to be spoiled by anything that happens later in the series.
Okay.
So I have refrained, but I don't think I can talk about it yet, but it is very much everything that you and I were hoping it would be. I think I can say that.
Okay.
It is a real treat.
Okay.
And I can't wait to finish it and to be able to talk about it. We're going to try to have Jorge on the show. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm really excited.
Killer. Okay. But speaking of having folks on the show, this brings us now to Kirk Thatcher, who has had quite the career. I don't think we got to talk about this as part of the show, but did you see how he got his start in show business?
No, well, I know. Does it have anything to do with his cameo in Star Trek 4?
Well, sort of. He definitely dabbled in the Star world. I mean, he started off. Well, first of all, I have to explain how he got the gig at Lucasfilm and wound up working on Return of the Jedi. It turns out his mom comes home from church one day. He's a SoCal kid. And his mom goes, hey, this a church whose son worked on those Star Wars movies. Maybe you should go talk to him. And this other guy turned out to be Joe Johnston. So basically what Kirk said to him was, I will do anything. I will do anything to work in these movies. And eventually Joe reached out to him and said, hey, we're setting up the creature shop, basically, for Return of the Jedi. And we need basically the guy who's the lowest man on the totem pole. We need the guy who's going to do the scut work. And by that I mean we need somebody to paint the room where the creature shop is going to be set up. And then we need guys to clean molds. And he that's the thing. He came in at the ground level, and then he worked so hard at Lucasfilm on a number of different projects that he sort of caught the attention of Leonard Nimoy. Because you got to remember that at that point, Lucasfilm is now doing the effects work for Star Trek 2 and Star Trek 3, and he becomes Leonard Nimoy's production assistant on the film. And that's actually how he'd seen the scene in the script where the punk is on the bus with the mohawk and hassling Captain Kirk and Mr. Spock, and he was let me be the punk. And it's like, you're willing to dye your hair, yes, and you're willing to shave your head, into a mohawk, yes. And it's like, and he describes, that in that distinct Nimoy voice, interesting. But he got the gig. And do you know the weird follow-up story for Spider-Man Homecoming?
Yes, he got to reprise his role in that montage where Spider-Man is sort of doing very inconsequential helping around the city. He actually reprises his role. Same look, same boombox. It's all there. It's really, really funny. So well, he's standing by the hot dog part, I want to say, right?
He is, but what's fascinating about this is that when Kirk was telling me the story, he was in a meeting with Kevin Feige, the head of Marvel. Never told me what the meeting was about, but he's in a meeting. And Kevin starts to enthuse about, oh my God, I love Star Trek, The Voyage Home. And I love what you did, as the punk. And you know what? We're shooting Spider-Man Homecoming in New York right now, and you should be in that movie. And it's like 24 hours later, he's in New York City. He's got the boombox. He's got the costume on. And this all came out of sitting down in Kevin Feige's office, and talking about some other project. So again, just weird how movies work somehow. And speaking of which, as we mentioned at the top of the show, Kirk has been trying for almost 30 years now to get some sort of movie made with the Muppets that involves a haunted house, right?
Yeah, it was really interesting to hear how desperately he's wanted to do this, because I think he's directed 2 Christmas specials / movies for the Muppets. So finally he gets his Halloween movie after all these years, Jim.
Oh, okay. Let's let Kirk himself tell the story. Okay, Kirk, just to start things off, and again, give you some idea of how long I have been tracking this project. I had a meeting with the folks back when it was the Muppet Holding Company after Disney had acquired them in February 2004. And I remember being at a conference room in Glendale with Chris Curtin, and he was laying out the whole plan. And he actually handed me this info sheet. Right in the middle of the info sheet is a mention of Muppet Haunted House with a script by Kirk Thatcher and Jim Lewis. So
yes, sir.
That was what, 17 years ago?
Oh, and we had written a version of that, a different version of that, probably 6 years earlier, in the mid '90s.
Holy!
This a Haunted Mansion or a Haunted House Halloween Muppet special has been a project I've been pitching since probably 95, 90, after we finished Treasure Island. I just thought, and then when Disney bought the Muppets, and then they, because you never know with the IP. If you're allowed to use it, even though it's owned by the same company. But then when they came up to us a couple of years ago and said, what do you think? Because when I first met the Imagineering people who are running the Muppets now, I said, a Muppet Halloween thing, we got to do something. And I didn't say Haunted Mansion because I knew, just because it was owned by Disney doesn't mean you could play in that playground. And after we did Muppets Now, they came to me and said, what do you think of a Muppets Haunted Mansion special or movie? I said, oh my gosh, that's 2 dreams come true, to do a Halloween thing with the Muppets. And I grew up in LA, so the Haunted Mansion, my top 3 rides, like in my life still, it's the Haunted Mansion, the Tiki Room, and Pirates of the Caribbean, with the Jungle Cruise probably in there too. And so to do anything with the Haunted Mansion and the Muppets, and I grew up loving the Muppets and all that, was just kind of my head kind of exploded. It was super exciting. It's been a lot of work, but really, really rewarding to see it come to fruition.
So how close was it to that document or whatever you were working on when Jim saw it?
Not at all. The other 4, I think we did 4 versions of a Muppet Halloween special. One was more monster centric. One was more classic monster, which became a Muppet video game. I remember in the late 90s or early 2000s, they came to me and said, hey, that thing you and Jim wrote, and we probably wrote 2 or 3 versions of it, like a TV special and a movie, and then back to a special. They said, would you be okay if we use that as the premise for a video game where the Muppets turn into classic movie monsters? I said, yeah, it's great. Sure. I mean, I don't own it, so you can do whatever you want. Thank you for asking. So yeah, nothing to do with that. Actually, nothing. We really couldn't pull anything from those because they were original stories, not based in the Haunted Mansion. And part of the joy of this was really using the characters and the setting of Disney's Haunted Mansion. So, I mean, the only thing we pulled, which is kind of obvious, is Muppets being ghosts.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I was wondering how you figured out which Muppet would play which character in the Haunted Mansion.
It's funny. That's whenever we do something that isn't the Muppets being themselves, that's a huge issue. The first thing that obvious was Piggy as Madame Leota. We call her Madame Pigoda. And that was easy. And then I pushed really hard for Fozzie to be Gauzy, the Hatbox Ghost, because he's cuddly enough. Because, the Hatbox Ghost is really kind of a living corpse. He's a skeleton with eyes. And I thought, well, if we do with Fozzie, he's not going to really scare little kids. And it's kind of funny to see him. If you've seen the poster, he has teeth, which was a big fight. I said, the Hatbox Ghost, if we just Fozzie put dark around his eyes, he just looks like Fozzie in emo guy liner. And I said, so let's give him the teeth so he kind of resembles the Hatbox Ghost. So that was none of these were battles, but sort of like discussions, I would say. And then the rest kind of fell into place. There wasn't any, those are the 2 most iconic characters are Leota that you actually meet in the ride, and the Hatbox Ghost. The caretaker we had as a human, Darren Criss, who does an amazing job. It's the first human who does a song number with the Muppets, and he nailed it. I knew who he was from Glee, but I'd never worked with him. And oh man, we had so much fun. And he gets this whole song number essentially to himself as the caretaker. It's the first song in the movie. And he was great. So let's see, is anyone else Bunsen and Beaker get to play the busts that follow you. the two busts, and that was funny. It's just a quick cameo. A lot of them just have quick little moments. And then the ballroom scene was the big casting we had. It's a huge music. It's our giant musical showstopper, and we cast pretty much every Muppet you could think of, and some of them as characters you recognize from the ride. Like one of the obvious ones was, well, Rolf has to be the guy at the organ because he's our keyboard player, and so we had fun with that. And then we got to cast Sam and Pops as the two portraits that the duelists that in the paintings that turn and fire on each other. And then Robin, a little Robin ghost, is the kid the character who's worshiping his birthday, blowing out the candles. We've got Chip as I think Pickwick is the name. What's great about working with Imagineering is they have this book. They told us that the character who's hanging off the chandelier is named Pickwick, which I never knew, and I'm a big Mansion fan. So Chip got to play him. We just really cast it out after those main ones. It was just sort of the fun of who might look like someone, and then we kind of created our own characters. And then the ghost host you never see in the ride is played by Will Arnett, which is amazing because he's got that deep gravelly voice,
Right. He's a human Muppet, sort of, already.
He is. Well, he worked really well. He has he can play comedy in a way that doesn't seem like he's being funny. You know what I mean? Like he seems very serious, and he's got that dry delivery, which works really well with Gonzo and Pepe. Because he can say things in this completely deadpan way that makes you laugh, which is not easy.
Right. Well, one of the characters in that scene, you got Brian Henson back. I mean, that is amazing. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't know how much I want to give away, but yeah, we have a lot. Again, there's a lot. Almost every Muppet that isn't a piece of dust right now, isn't a pilot, was used in this, and we had to wardrobe them because no one is wearing modern clothes in the mansion, all these ghosts. So Brian Henson comes back as Sal, and there's a quick cameo as Phil Van Neuter. So Muppet fans, Mansion fans might not know any of these characters, but Muppet fans will be, and that was kind of the great joy of this, was mashing up deep cuts with Muppets and deep Haunted Mansion cuts that, fans of both IPs, fans of both properties will just, I think, get a big kick out of, and I think warrant, multiple viewings or at least freeze framing, going, oh my God.
Right.
That's also there.
Well, now you mentioned again, Imagineering helping you with identifying characters like Pickwick or that sort of thing. But I was digging through your resume today and came across this fascinating little reference to the fact of you'd finished working on the Jim Henson Hour and went back to LA and was part of the team that was developing dinosaurs with Jim. Yeah. But you also mentioned in here that you did some work for Imagineering.
I did. Well, if you remember that, it was 1990. Disney was going to buy the Muppets. Mm-hmm. And so they were already developing theme park rides. Mm-hmm. So they brought me in as, well, it's funny, they brought me in as a consultant on that, mm-hmm. which I ended up not doing so much for, but also designing a ride. They were going to redo what was the Carousel of Progress, this big spaceship idea, and it was going to have Danny Elfman doing the music, and Michael Jackson was going to play this alien, and it was this huge project.
You worked on Plecto, the intergalactic circus thing?
Yes, I worked on Plecto. I didn't even know that. I never even heard it called Plecto. Yeah, Tony McVeigh, I brought down. They were looking for alien designers, and so Tony McVeigh, who I'd worked with on Gremlins and Jedi, came down, and we designed aliens and gags for about 6-7 months. And all the while was consulting on Muppet stuff and developing dinosaurs with Jim. Mm-hmm. And then as tragically Jim passed. But mm-hmm. So yeah, that was an interesting year. And I came back to LA and worked on RoboCop for like 4 or 5 months. RoboCop is a crazy.
Okay, that's a little whiplash going right there.
Yeah, it's, I don't know if it's ADHD or just luck.
What are you sort of most excited for people to see in this special? Because it is pretty monumental that it is finally a Muppet Halloween special. I think that we've
tell me about it. I mean, you're preaching to the choir. This is like one of those things, like if I died next week, I'd be okay. All right, I got to do that. I've got a couple other things up my sleeve, but this was a big one. The music, okay, I mean, this is kind of tooting my own horn, but we got not only part of it was writing. They haven't let me write on anything I've directed since well, since ever. I've never been able to be a writer and director on the same project. So for me, it was really fun to, and again, I think partially it's because of my deep fanboyish of the Haunted Mansion. I knew dialogue from the ride. We didn't have to Google it. And then writing the music, the songs were really important. And I'd done a couple other projects where, the songs were sort of handed to us. And this one, we got to write the other two writers, and I wrote the lyrics and worked really closely with Ed Mitchell and Steve Russell, our song and composing team, to make these songs that to me are very Muppety and very Disney. It just, and again, of course I say that because that was the desire, but the vibe we got back from even the crew was like, wow, that the songs came out really fast. We wrote the lyrics. Bill, Kelly, and I would write the lyrics, and then we handed it off once the script was approved to Ed, and then Ed and I would work just for a couple of days on like, what's the melody, what's the tune, and then we'd send it out, and pretty much every song that people just like, that's great, like totally works. So that was really rewarding for me. So I think the music will be a big part of it, but just I think this big the Easter eggs, I guess, for me, all the different, it's such a great mashup with Muppet Easter eggs and Haunted Mansion Easter eggs sprinkled throughout. And I think people who are fans of both or one or the other will get a kick out of seeing how we've, done the mashup.
And Disney Easter eggs. Correct me if I'm wrong, but was the ballroom song supposed to be a Be Our Guest sort of homage?
We had originally talked about doing it as a using the same melody, but that didn't work out. And I was kind of pushing for, let's write our own song. Let's create a new song. But I think Be Our Guest, Be Our Ghost was our kind of our guiding light. It was like, we want to do a number that's evocative of that, where basically all these ghosts are like, what a great place this is, be our guest here, join us in the life. That's came up with the title, Life Hereafter. Join us in the life hereafter, sleepless nights, eternal laughter. And so, yeah, Be Our Guest was sort of the inspiration for what this number was. And it just grew and grew. It originally was going to be the song was going to be smaller, but what they do for it. And Bill Beretta, our executive producer, was like, no, this is it, man. You've got to go for it. So I went away for like 5 days and went with work with a storyboard artist, and we just kind of planned out this huge song. And I think we got about 95% of it. And it's I forgot, you'd have to ask our producers how many shots, but there's probably 500 shots in terms of blue screen elements and ghost elements and background elements in the song. It really is a big blowout number.
Forgive me for asking this, but again, you directed second unit on Muppets in Space, and then directed a very Muppet movie, a very Muppet
very Muppet movie. Christmas,
yeah. Then The Wizard of Oz, and now and in between their Muppet Christmas Letters from Santa. Which do you prefer? Do you prefer the projects like this where where the Muppets get to dress up and be characters and play different roles of that sort of thing, or where the Muppets are the Muppets?
I've always said, to me, the Muppets are like Monty Python. They're a comedy troupe that do, they were even designed as a troupe of actors that did stage shows. So for me, and also I think a Kermit and Piggy gonna get, I always say this, the Kermit and Piggy gonna get married, I don't care anymore. Like either they are or they aren't, let's move on. And I think for movies, now not for a TV series, but for movies or short form things like this, I like seeing them like Treasure Island or Christmas Carol thrown into a genre. And so and this is kind of the best of both worlds. We get to see the Muppets as the Muppets at a Halloween party celebrating Halloween, and then we get to see the Muppets as Haunted Mansion residents. So we got to our cake and eat it too, which was, again, part of the fun of this. Is like, oh gosh, we get to do everything. And one of our concerns was that people knew that the ghosts in the mansion were not dead Muppets. They were, and we actually have a line of dialogue that explains. And it's fun because it's buried in the actual Haunted Mansion dialogue. When you're on the ride, they say they're responding to your sympathetic vibrations. The spirits are, you're going to start seeing things because they're responding to your sympathetic vibrations. I said, well, let's pivot on that and say things will look familiar to you because they're responding to your sympathetic vibrations, and it's going to look the spirits. And again, this is part of the plot. They want to entice you to join them. So of course they're going to make it look familiar. So of course, Two Muppets, many of the denizens are going to look Muppety to make them feel at home. So it's interesting you brought that up. That was a discussion in the beginning. Like, are kids going to think that the Muppets are in costume at the mansion? Or like, no, we make it very clear in the introduction when they go in that what you see here is basically the house. And again, it's been used in other haunted house movies. Like, it's going to make you see what you want to see or what you're comfortable seeing.
Right. Well, I know we're running out of time, but I know that Jim and I are both very curious about this screen technology that you guys were using. That is sort of Mandalorian-esque, right?
Exactly. The same technology, Unreal Engine was the software used, and it's the only way we could have done this. I mean, for any kind of schedule and budget, we built a virtual haunted mansion, and it looks great. We learned a lot doing it. I think I'm not the first person to say this. I think the future of filmmaking is going to use this a lot. I want to use it again because it just opens you up to doing things. There's certain tricks about shooting it that aren't traditional. The weirdest thing is when you get there as a director, you're like, oh, I don't move the camera, I move the room. But I'm not really moving the room. I'm just moving the room on that screen or those screens. And so, in a traditional movie, you're doing a reverse. You don't spin the set around. You just flip you move your camera around. So our cameras are always facing essentially, one direction, like a proscenium. In some ways, it's like filming a play. Yet you could do reverses and overs and everything. You just move the background. And then the lighting that comes along with it. What traditionally, like if we had to do this 5 years ago and we couldn't shoot in the mansions because they're not really suitable for filming, you do it on green screen, or you would spend a ton of money and build a haunted mansion set that you'd have to tear down. The thing with green screen is you're always fighting the inappropriate or incorrect lighting, because you have to light the green screen right, but it's not going to look like you're in a dimly lit room with cobwebs and candlelight. You have to get the green screen lit properly. So with this technology, the lighting panels that aren't the ones that are visible on camera, but that light from the ceiling and the sides, are using the imagery from the rooms you've generated or the environments you've generated to light the characters, this interactive lighting. So they composite in so much better. Even if you have to jump to a green screen because you haven't built the background or whatever, you get this interactive lighting that really sells it. It was funny for everyone. We'd be sitting you're looking at the puppets in front of a very large, I said, our big television set. But then you look on the monitor like, oh no, they're in a room. They're in a graveyard. They're in this, and then you kind of look, it really is that weird disconnect where you look at, the magic trick is revealed. It still works when you look at it on the monitor. And one thing that was great about the Muppets, they're used to watching the monitor. That's how they perform. They're not looking around the room. I think it was a bit of a trick for the actors because they're not used to standing in front of a TV and looking out, basically a camera crew staring at them. And then, when you do a reverse, they just stand there, or, just turn your back or whatever. And then suddenly, you know what I mean? It took a couple days for everyone, even the DP and the director of photography, Craig, and I just kind of like, oh, okay, right. The camera doesn't move that much. You can dolly left or right or push in and out, and that's about it. The rest of it is you're moving the room. So it gave us a lot of freedom of where we could go. We built essentially a whole virtual version of the haunted mansion, and you get to light it any way you want, even if it's not physically possible. You can have, fake candles lighting a fake room. I mean, that was the biggest challenge for the whole thing. Was almost nothing was there. The only thing that was really there was the actors and the puppets. Everything else was either green screened or blue screened and comped in later, or was on a TV in the background that wasn't a real room.
Got it. At this point, you directed multiple movies that celebrate Christmas. You got a TV movie set at Thanksgiving, and now Muppet Haunted Mansion. Valentine's, to Halloween. Any other holidays you're jonesing to do stuff about? Or
that's funny. We joked about that. The Muppet Easter special. In my perfect world, I would just do Halloween movies for the rest of my life. And like I said, there's probably like 7 Muppet Christmas movies, and this is one Halloween. I'm like, hey, let's even it up a little bit. I was joking with friends today about let's do a Muppet Werewolf Thanksgiving, just like, why not just have Muppet monsters and monsters at every holiday? But to seriously answer, Kristen, there is no other holiday. It's funny. Jim Lewis and I pitched a Muppet Valentine's Day special years ago because, aside from Kermit and Piggy and Gonzo and Camilla and maybe Floyd and Janice, there's not a lot of couples. And we thought, well, we could have fun either doing famous, either they're reenacting, Romeo and Juliet or famous love scenes, or we just sort of, the Muppets are, getting together for something and you just kind of explore the relationships that are essentially just hinted at, except for, again, Kermit, Piggy, and a little bit Gonzo and Camilla. But yeah, aside of a burning desire, no, there's no other holidays that I've been trying to. Trust me, 27 years on Halloween, I'm burnt out.
Okay.
Well, are there any other attractions that you would like to insert the Muppets into?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, they're fairly obvious which ones, since they just did Jungle Cruise. There's about 3 attractions, again, that I love and I would love to. And well, Pirates of the Caribbean's been done. In fact, Muppet Treasure Island was my big inspiration for it, was Pirates of the Caribbean as a kid, and just loving that world and then, pirate movies. And we did it before. We actually had more like kind of spooky elements in the original draft of Muppet Treasure Island. We had tiki gods coming to life and all that. But yeah, there's 3 other rides. I don't want to say it because I don't want to give it away, but anyone who's been to Disneyland more than twice would guess, I don't think the teacups are going to inspire a ride.
Muppet Carousel of Progress. We are ready.
Dang it, you guessed it.
Well, Kirk, thank you so much for chatting with us. This was a big thrill. We'll talk soon. Okay, bye.
Thanks again, Kirk. Take care, guys. Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you, Kirk. Bye-bye.
Now, you've actually seen Muppet Haunted Mansion, which goes live tomorrow on Disney Plus.
Yes.
Have a favorite part, a favorite scene, or?
I would never give anything away, unlike you, Jim. But I will say, how about I tease this? A returning character, and I don't think we talked about this during our interview, but Joe from Legal, from Muppets Now, will make an appearance in Muppets Haunted Mansion. So that's my little tease there.
Okay.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
Okay. I'm kind of intrigued by that. Okay. Well, again, check that out on Disney Plus. And speaking of things you should be checking out, Light the Fuse is honestly one of my favorite podcasts out there. And it's not just because Drew does it.
It's in spite of me doing it, I think.
No. I so enjoy the great stories you get out of the people who've worked on John Wick and the Top Gun films and of course, the Mission Impossible film series. Do we have anybody interesting coming on the show soon, or?
Yeah, I mean, we're right now we're working on getting some guests for December, because that is the 10th anniversary of Mr. Brad Bird's Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. So if you love that film as much as we do, and I'm assuming if you're listening to a podcast about animation, you love Brad Bird, I think it would be worth tuning in for that. But we've got great episodes until then, obviously, but that's what we're kind of working on right now. So there you go.
Okay. Before I forget here, another thing you really, really, really need to be doing is paying attention to Drew on social media. It's such great fun to see who you're chatting with or who you're poking at. Can you tell folks how they can find you on social media?
Sure, they can find me at Drew Tailored, like a tailored shirt, on Instagram and Twitter. And Jim, you didn't tell us about your podcast.
Well, okay. We got Disney Dish with Len Testa. We got Marvelous Disney, the Marvel News podcast I do with Aaron Adams, which is now weekly. And Aaron is the poor gentleman who comes at the D shows with the machete to remove all the stuff I'm not supposed to say. We also have Universal Joint and Looking at Lucasfilm, and I want that, and I will actually get those things out the door soon. But in the meantime, if you could do Drew and I a favor, if you could head over to Apple Podcasts and rate and review, well, not just the show you're listening to now, Fine Tuning, but also, say some nice stuff about, Light the Fuse, because it's a show that certainly deserves that. If you like what you heard here tonight, you want to head over to Bandcamp and subscribe, that would be helpful as well. Anywhere else, some Drew Taylor goodness is going to bubble up. I mean, we had that wonderful story in the New York Times.
There are things coming, but not yet. But as soon as they are out, I will, of course, share them with you and with all of our listeners. But yeah, until then.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, I won't be a nudge. Our side of the fence, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Jim Hill Media and on Facebook at Jim Hill Media News. And that will do it for this week. Thanks again for listening. And again, thanks for that great catch at the top of the show with the Scarlett Johansson news. That's going to be interesting.
I've heard the number was $40 million, Jim, and I think that's about enough to clear up any hurt feelings on either side of that argument. So there you go.
The interesting thing is, what sort of Hallmark card do you get for a moment like that? It's like,
right.
I'm sorry I was a jerk at the highest possible level of the company. Please accept this enormous pile of cash. So,
right.
All right. Anyway, thanks for listening, folks, and we'll be back soon.